Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to the patch notes for Wild Rift 5.0a. These will be released tomorrow. The patch notes are always a day earlier in the evening, but hopefully you enjoy this content. Hopefully you enjoy the patch rundown. There's quite a lot to get through. We got new champions, we got system changes, item updates, champion updates, arenas coming back as well. So really excited to get in this with you all and explain to you all about all of these changes. Before we get into the changes itself, I think it's important to notice the big elephant in the room. Obviously, there's quite a few pages with these patch notes, but I want to scroll all the way down to the bottom where we can talk about the strategic points and also the matchmaking optimization. Strategic points, they're making an optimization where the trigger of the strategic points will be more difficult to trigger. If you don't know what strategic points is, it's basically the comeback mechanic in the game. So when you have a little bit of a gold lead in the game, sometimes you'll see some of your towers glowing gold. If enemies take the towers or the objectives, then they're going to get a little bit more extra gold. This was really difficult because when you got even a little bit ahead in the game, these were triggering so much and the comeback mechanic was way too easy, like way too easy. So really glad that they're doing that. The second thing is probably one of the biggest changes I think we've had in a very long time, which is matchmaking optimization. I did a big massive video on this yesterday. I'll link it in the description. You can go and check out that video. I did a whole video where I talked about Wild Rift in terms of matchmaking, hackers being removed, bug fixes being switched up, and just talking about Wild Rift and the development team in general. But this is one of the changes that one of the developers tweeted about yesterday. We're increasing the weight of winning / losing games relative to other factors. Game outcomes will be more significant dependent on your forward future matchmaking accuracy. This should optimize matchmaking mechanism for edge cases. So basically this is trying to prevent players from doing this kind of inting strategy where players were getting really low KDAs but really high win rates, and the win rate didn't really matter. Like you can get 80% win rate with 1 KDA. The win rate didn't really matter, but because you had a low KDA, the game was matching you with better players with higher KDAs. So now they're doing it now so KDA is less of a value in terms of matchmaking, and now winning and losing is more of a matchmaking value. So now that player that has an 80% win rate with 1.0 KDA is now going to be matched with much lower win rate players, which means their teammates are not going to be as good as what they were before. Because the crazy thing was you would have 80% win rate, 1.0 KDA, and the rest of your team would be really insane. So really nice changes. I went into a lot more detail in with this in a separate video. Again, I'll link it down in the description. If you want to go into that, you can do, but this is all I'll talk about with these two changes. All right, let's scroll all the way back up and let's talk about everything else that is coming in the new patch. Talon is coming out on the 23rd of February, which is quite far away actually. That's like 3 weeks away, over 3 weeks away. So this might be a very long patch cycle. If they're announcing that Talon is releasing on 23rd of February, this might last nearly a whole month, this patch, which is kind of surprising. But Talon probably going to be played in the mid lane or even the jungle. Really scary assassin, has like all these knives that he can throw out, he can bring back to himself, he can turn invisible with his ultimate. Really cool champion. I'm not too sure how the champion is going to perform, but really excited to see how Talon is going to do. They have the Lunar Extravaganza, the Year of the Dragon, which is going to be all this amazing new Lunar New Year event with all the skins. You can get the free skin in game right now, all the sort of amazing things that they're doing with the Lunar New Year event, which would be kind of cool. Arena is coming back. It even says here, you asked for it and we delivered. Arena is back soon. 12th of February, it will be back. So in about just over a week's time, Arena will be back, which again is going to be quite an exciting thing. Interesting, it has champion changes here, but it has like ARAM changes and also Arena changes. So yeah, very interesting that they announced that Arena's, oh, it's because it's a game mode. Oh, I get it now. It's events and then it's game mode. So yeah, game mode arenas come back 12th of February. Right, let's talk about champion changes. First up in the Baron lane is Garen. Garen's a champion that's in a bit of an interesting spot because he's not really built as a tank, but he's also not really built as a bruiser at the same time. The crazy thing is with Garen is just his ease of play and how easy it is to play him. That's why he's, you know, quite strong at the moment. They are buffing him ever so slightly. His first ability is being buffed, which doesn't really mean too much because you don't max this until the last max ability. The big change is going to be on the third ability, which this is normally the ability that you max first. You can see the base damage here is getting increased at every single rank, and at 4 damage per hit on the maximum ranks. This is damage per on hit as well. So every single time that you spin, you're dealing like damage per second, basically, depending on who's nearby and how much damage you're dealing. This is now going up at every single level. The attack damage ratio is still the same, but the base value is pretty huge, you know, especially because you're maxing this first. You'll be able to get an extra 4 damage per on hit with the third ability, which is really big. First ability, again, not really too much, just the base value going up on the first ability, which is normally what you max last, sorry. So getting an extra 10 damage is not too much, but the big thing is the third ability of Garen. Again, he's sitting in a bit of a weird spot. He doesn't really use the new items very well. He still kind of builds this kind of bruiser build in a way. It's really interesting, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Aurelion Sol, I've been playing this champion a lot ever since he got that little bit of a hot fix buff. Really big change for Aurelion Sol, optimizing his maneuverability. If I was to predict what this is going to be, this is probably where you can use your second ability now, and now also use the joystick on the left hand side. Because the problem at the moment is when you use your second ability and then when you use the joystick on your left hand side, you basically cancel the second ability. So it means that you're basically losing out on most of your damage, because when you're flying with Aurelion Sol, you're dealing more damage. So the more times you fly towards an enemy champion, the more damage you're going to be dealing. But obviously removing that with the joystick was very difficult. So yeah, I'm guessing that's what it is. It might be something completely different. I'm very curious what this change is. We'll have to obviously test it out when the changes come through. But yeah, really nice change here for Aurelion Sol, making it so that the it's kind of like a bug fix in a way, I guess you can say, which is quite nice. Syndra, interesting enough, getting a bit of a buff. I don't think the buff is too much, but I still felt like before she was in a pretty good spot. Her base health was definitely extremely low. I think 540 for base value was extremely low. She was really squishy. The one advantage that she does have is that she has incredible range, so she can use her first ability to poke at range, which was really nice. But if you get dove on by any assassins, you kind of get one shot because you have such low base HP. But that going up is really nice for her in the early game. And one of her main damage sources, her first ability. This, when it's evolved, you get double the storage of your first ability. So you can use this ability twice in quick succession. The buff amount is going up by quite a bit. And this is also the ability that you max first as well. So you always have to look at kind of the last number. Which is really nice, going up by 15 base damage. And also the ability power ratio is going up by 10%. So the more ability power you're going to build, the more damage you're going to be dealing with Syndra, which is also very cool. Zyra, I think they nerfed this champion way too much, to be honest with you. I'm not surprised that they're buffing her again, especially her plants. Like, these were extremely weak. So yeah, this was really scary. The interesting thing was that before they nerfed the base value and also the AP ratio, now they're kind of reverting the base value of the of Zyra's plants, but reducing the AP ratio. The main reason why I think they're doing this is they're pushing more towards support Zyra, because with support Zyra, you don't really have that much gold or that much time to be able to build all these items and get a lot more ability power, so that your health on your plants are going to be that much more than what they were before. Now they're giving more base value to the health of the plants, which is really nice, and then they scale less of ability power. I think it's a really nice change for Zyra. Hopefully her plants will be a little bit more viable now than what they are at the moment. And then also the damage on the first ability going up by quite a bit. In terms of base values, going up by 10 to 25 every single level, 10, 15, 20, 25 every single level. Again, pretty nice change here for Zyra, just giving her a little bit of extra poke damage. So really nice changes to Zyra overall. Ziggs. Now, Ziggs with the rework was really interesting. I didn't really like Ziggs's rework at all, especially the passive, that you felt like you were basically dealing no extra damage at all, which I didn't really like, to be fair. And also your first ability didn't really deal that much damage either. So they're doing quite a bit to Ziggs. They're giving him nearly double the amount of damage now to towers. Now, this is mainly with all your abilities. You can use your first ability, your ultimate, your third ability. All these abilities can be used on a turret. It's basically nearly getting buffed. I mean, it's been increased by over 10%, which is really, really nice. And then the power damage on the bouncing bomb to turret has also been increased by, again, pretty much over 10%. So again, really, really nice change here to the passive. And also first ability, the base value is being increased at every single level. And also the cooldown is being reduced in the early levels as well. The one big downside of Ziggs at the moment is that his early game is a lot weaker than it was before, because you lost a lot of base damage on your first ability. Now they give a little bit of base damage and also the cooldown back. This is kind of a revert of the nerfs that they did before with bouncing bomb. They thought that they could make the champion easier and they could give the passive something new and then nerf the damage, but that kind of made Ziggs a bit weaker. So nice change overall to Ziggs. Maybe he's a little bit more viable now, we'll have to see. Severe change is really interesting. What they're trying to do with Severe is they're trying to make it so when you're falling behind you feel stronger, but when you're ahead you feel weaker. So at the moment with the ricocheted just scaling off attack damage, if you got ahead really early on and if you were able to get a lot of damage, then this attack damage was really, really huge, because obviously the more you're ahead, the more gold you're getting, the more attack damage you're getting. So this ability was doing a lot of damage. The problem is when you was behind in gold, you wasn't actually dealing that much damage, because obviously this damage ratio is not going to give you as much. Now what they're doing is they're giving the skill a base value, which is going to make it all rounded a lot better, but also they're reducing the attack damage ratio. I did like numbers a little bit. I did like level 11 severe with like 2 items plus boots upgrades, and you're losing about, I think it was about 5 damage overall. Like the damage numbers that you're actually losing with these changes is not too much. But again, it's more in a case of if you're ahead now, the more attack damage you're dealing is actually not giving you a lot of extra damage because of these attack damage ratios. But again, if you put more levels in the ability, then it's going to deal more damage. And obviously, the later the game goes, you're still going to do more damage anyway. Yeah, interesting change for Severe. I think she's one of my highest win rates at the moment in Wild Rift in this new patch. So yeah, very, very interesting. Fizz was just a little bit annoying. I think Jungle Fizz was extremely powerful. Damage on the first ability going down, the AP ratio going down, and also the oh no, actually no, the base value is not changing at all. It's just the AP ratio going down by 5%, so not that much of a change. Is that the same with the second ability as well? Interesting. So they're only nerfing 5% AP ratio on the first ability and also the second ability. Exchanges will let his opponent come up for air, especially in the late game team fights. Interesting. So yeah, these AP ratios going down just means that Fizz is not going to be as powerful in the late game. Again, this is kind of where these AP ratios come in, and AD ratios is where the late game comes in. When you have more items, the abilities are going to do more damage, so not really too much. Twitch. Now this change is basically only to do in China, honestly. Like if I open up the Chinese win rates really quickly, I can quickly show you all. If you look at the moment, I mean, this is the 22nd of January, but look at the win rate at the moment with Twitch in China. Like this is the win rate in China at the moment with Twitch. This is Masters and above. Oh no, this is Diamond and above, sorry. Like Twitch has an extremely high win rate compared to like everyone else, you know, Samira and Kai Solution are at the bottom. And also Severe's near the top. So I think this change is only to do in China, because I have not seen Twitch at all in Europe. I never see Twitch in Europe played in jungle, played in dual lane, like at all. And like they are gutting the champion, by the way. Like this isn't a small nerf. This is a really huge, a really huge nerf. You're losing 4 base AD. You're also losing 15 base AD now at level, or attack damage per level. You're now losing 15 attack damage per level at level 15. Because this is, you're losing 1 now per level. I guess you can say it's 14 because you're only leveling up 14 times. So you're now losing 14 AD here, an extra 4 AD here, and also you're losing more bonus AD from the ultimate as well. So these are like some really weird changes to Twitch. I mean, I didn't think the champion was that good before anyway down in the dual lane, because you can easily bully out the champion if you play anything else that's just super aggressive. You can just play something like, I don't know, Lucian or something like that, just completely dominating lane. But yeah, these are some really weird nerfs that I think is very skewed towards China. But yeah, maybe it's popular in Europe, but I didn't see him. Maybe it's popular in lower elos. I'm not too sure, but I've barely seen any Twitch. Really weird. Yuumi, this is the whole rework with Yuumi. Basically what they're doing to champion, they're making the champion easier to play, but also they're nerfing her by quite a bit as well. I'll explain that now. So at the moment, Yuumi's passive before this update was just Yuumi's attack. So Yuumi's attacks against enemy champions grant her a shield, which also takes effect when Yuumi is attacked. So most of the time what you do is you jump out with Yuumi, you auto attack with her to deal the to get the shield, and then you jump back into an ally. Now obviously there's a bit of skill involved with that, with knowing when to jump out, knowing what abilities enemies have, because if you get crowd control when you jump out with Yuumi, then you can't jump back into an ally for another 5 to 10 seconds and then you're just dead. But now there's kind of no incentive to jump out now as Yuumi. There is no reason to jump out of your ally now with Yuumi, because now is Yuumi's abilities and attacks and abilities against enemy champions. So all you have to do now to get her passive is land her first ability. If you land her first ability, then you give your ally a shield. So there's no incentive now to actually jump out with Yuumi. Like there's no point. You might as well stay on that champion and that's it. Now there has been a bit of a change in terms of the shield itself. You're getting more of a base shield in the early game, but you're losing a lot per level. Like it's going down from 25 down to 10 per level. So your shield is going to be a lot weaker in late game, but you're going to get a lot more power now in the early game with the 50 base shield instead of 35. But you're losing like 15 shield per level now. So like that is pretty insane. So basically when you go above level, I think it's like 4, it looks like level 4 or 5, you're basically losing shield value, because this would be plus 25 and this is only plus 10. The ability power ratio hasn't changed, but this is a pretty big nerf to the late game shields. Obviously in the late game it's really easy now because you can just use your ability, land your Q, boom, you get a shield to your ally. Like it's extremely easy now to play Yuumi. But not only that, they've also completely gutted the cooldown as well. The cooldown is now 18 at all levels. 18 seconds on your passive at all freaking levels. Instead of going down to like 9 seconds, you can now only proc Yuumi's passive every 18 seconds. And like I said, there is no incentive now to jump out with Yuumi. What's the point of jumping out now with Yuumi? You don't need to jump out to get a shield. You don't need to jump out to do basically anything else. You heal anyway with your third ability. The only reason you might want to jump out is to maybe reposition to try and stun someone with her ultimate. That's it. That's the only reason. And then they also changed her second ability. Now this is extremely confusing even for me. I really struggled to try and work this out. But what I'm understanding is that Yuumi is now going to give more of a base bonus attack damage or base ability power, instead of it being based on Yuumi's allies attack damage and ability power. Because if you read it carefully, it has a base value here, which is getting a little bit of buff here. So you compare the base values here. You normally had plus a percentage of the bonus attack damage of Yuumi's allies. That's it. Like it was a percentage based on how much bonus attack damage. No, sorry. It was a percentage of your ally's attack damage. So say for example your ally has 200 AD, you would get 17% of the AD as bonus attack damage given to your ally. And the same for AP, you know, base value plus a percentage of ability power of Yuumi's allies. Now it is a base value plus another base value plus 0.25 per level percentage of bonus attack damage. So now your percentage is now a lot lower, like a lot lower. Like if you think of like 0.25 of 15, that's like an extra what, 3 or 4 that you're getting. Like you're getting like 9% probably. You're getting like 9% per 9% bonus attack damage now, which is basically not even touching this. And that's at level 15, by the way. At level 15, you are getting 9%. You're giving 9% bonus attack damage instead of it being 8% of your allies bonus damage. Like it's really confusing, but the basics of it is it's not based on how much attack damage Yuumi's allies have now. She now has more of a base value, which is going to make her a bit more even, I guess you can say, in terms of power. And maybe sometimes not sitting on your carries the whole time is going to be the most ideal thing. Because at the moment you can just run around with like KO Yuumi or something and do a shit ton of damage. You probably still will, but it's not going to be nowhere near as enough. But the basics of this is just making Yuumi easier to play, but kind of nerfing her to the ground as well, because they're really nerfing her. Like, this is a huge nerf. This is a huge nerf. This is also probably a huge nerf. It's really hard to kind of figure out the ratios with this. But yeah, pretty interesting. ARAM changes. I'm going to scroll through these very slowly. If you want to look at ARAM changes, arena changes as well. Again, if you want to have a look at them, you can pause it at any time. But I'm not really too fussed about any of these changes at all. And then we move on to the gameplay changes, which, as you can see, this is where the strategic point in the matchmaking optimization is. They are buffing Titanic Hydra and Hard Steel again. So we buffed the shockwave range of Titanic Hydra so it could be more beneficial in team fights. So the range is going from 500 to 550. Honestly, this is barely a change. This is like a 10% difference. Sorry, like 10% increased range of shockwave. Whoop-de-doo. I don't think it's going to really do that much, to be honest with you. Hard Steel one's quite interesting. They're actually buffing, sorry, the time for charge on the huge strike. So at the moment with Hard Steel, when you walk up, it's going to charge a mark on an ally. And then after 3 seconds, you can walk up and proc Hard Steel. Now it's going down to 2.5 seconds. So now you can actually proc this more often, and you can proc this a lot easier as well, which is going to be quite nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You got some skins here as well. There's a lot of skins coming. You got the Dragon Lantern skins that are coming for the Lunar New Year event. You also got the Love Struck Ezreal, Love Struck Lux skins, which are coming for Valentine's Day. And then you got the High Noon skins afterwards. So a lot coming ahead of us in Wild Rift. But yeah, big things this patch is obviously the matchmaking optimization. Again, if you want to watch that video, you can do. Link will be down in the description. Overall, some decent changes. I don't think too much is going to change in terms of the meta. The big thing obviously is going to be the matchmaking, so we'll have to see how that is going to plan out. But yeah, appreciate you all tuning into the video. Let me know what you think of the patch notes down in the comments, and as always, take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next wild video. Peace.